Hi, my name is Giovanni Barba, and I am legally blind. Born at just 22 weeks gestation, I was left with retinopathy of prematurity and glaucoma, which now means that I only see out of the left eye with about 2200, and the right eye is light perception. I'd like to share a little bit about my story as I transitioned after high school into post secondary education and how I ended up where I am today and where I see myself going in the future. So I'll start way back in the beginning. Once I graduated high school, I began my journey at El Camino College, which is a local community college down in Torrance. And I'll be honest, at the time, I really was not very proud that I was going to ECC or El Camino because in high school, I had always been the academic one, the smart one, the one who would go off to a big, fancy, beautiful university, right? But that being said, I ended up going to El Camino because I felt that I was not ready to take on the rigor of university or to move far away and leave the familiarity of my home environment. And you know what? It was the best decision I could have ever made. When I first stepped onto El Camino College's campus, I was overwhelmed with how large it was and all the different winding paths and the many students that traveled to and fro, right? But I found my way to the Special Resource Center, which I'll refer interchangeably during this video as the SRC. And when I got there, it really felt like a place that was safe, a place that was special, and a place that I belonged. And I remember I had my first intake meeting with one of the counselors, and we had finished the assessment process. They had found me eligible to receive services, and she looked at me and asked me, "So, what accommodations do you need?" And I looked back at her like, "What do you mean? What do I need?" I mean, I don't know. I've usually just been given things, and this is what has worked. And for the first time ever, I realized that leaving the K 12 setting, I had to advocate for myself and I had to figure out what it was that I needed. And I didn't know what I needed, I didn't know what was out there. And here I was starting at this whole new institution, not knowing what academic and educational resources would work for me. Now, the counselor, understanding my predicament, helped me go through a list of most common accommodations, which I agreed to. And through our discussion, I mentioned things that had worked for me in the past, such as magnifiers, large print textbooks, extra time on tests, things of that sort. But it was through her that she connected me with Brian, who was and continues to be the assistive technology coordinator and instructor slash trainer at the SRC. So she told me to go meet with him and he would help me out. And I did. I met with him and Brian was super welcoming with his Hawaiian shirt and asked me like, what do I know about technology? What would benefit me? And again, I looked at him with that blank expression, like, I don't know. This is what I've used in the past. And he's like, well, that's great. But let me tell you about what we have here. Have you ever heard of, even very simple things? Have you ever heard of having your textbooks in PDF and reading it with audio or voiceover or Kurzweil 3000? Have you heard about Dragon Naturally Speaking? Have you heard about the ability to scan and then convert files into accessible, readable format? Have you thought about how you're going to organize your files on your computer? Have you given any thought into how long it will take you to read if you continue to use a magnifier? Perhaps it might be beneficial for you to actually consider using screen readers. And Brian opened up my eyes, pun intended, to the world of assistive technology and the way that it could be a transformative set of tools to enhance my education and my independence. And so I scheduled meetings with him and then I ran with everything that he gave me. I got my books in electronic format and my reading speed increased tenfold. I was able to now, instead of struggling with a teeny tiny little magnifier trying to read all this print that would take me 8 hours to get through a chapter, now I was breezing through 50 pages in an hour because I could speed up the speech and listen to a book much faster and take notes while I was reading than I ever could have with a magnifier. I no longer had to carry massive volumes of books. I could just carry an iPad. And the iPad became kind of I can't even speak, the what is it? Quintessential, that's the word, quintessential tool that I used throughout my college experience. On top of that, of course, I was introduced to like electronic magnifiers. I was introduced to Zoom Text, which is a software that you can use on a laptop or computer that magnifies the screen while also providing speech output. All of these things that I didn't know existed before I attended college. I perhaps had heard about them, but was not really introduced to them until I started my journey at El Camino. And so, with those tools in hand, I excelled in my classes. I excelled in classes that I thought I would struggle in, which I mean, I did struggle, but I got tutoring and of course, the assistive tech helped, such as math and statistics, rigorous English courses, not geography, geology lab, philosophy, all these courses that I was kind of worried about. And I did really well. And what I loved about El Camino College and the SRC in particular was that even though, yes, they gave me all of these tools, they trained me how to use them, but it wasn't a, okay, we trained you, bye. No, their door was always open. I could always come back. And Brian was so, and continues to be, he's very gracious in leaving his door open to his office. And I remember I could just walk in at any time and say hello or pop in with a quick question. And if he was busy, he would just ask me to come back later or schedule an appointment. But it never felt turned away, never felt turned away. And I saw tons of other students at the Special Resource Center with all types of disabilities. And they were always, in my eyes, smiling, having a good time, laughing with the fellow staff, even while waiting in lines to schedule our test accommodations. The SRC is really just such a positive and empowering place on campus. It really, really is something special. And so, I learned a lot about different educational tools, which I won't go into the whole list here, but things such as Sonocent, which now is replaced with Otter AI, Kurzweil, um, even how to like scan, all these things that I really didn't know, right? And after that, I mean, the crazy part is in the second year of college, I was actually offered a job at the High Tech Center, which is the center within the Student Resource Center that houses the assistive tech, computers, and printers and stuff like that for students to use. So now I had this job where I was going in and I was assisting other students on how to use the computer, how to process things on Word, how to scan, how to print, all of those things that are beneficial, how to use aspects of Zoom Text and JAWS. But now, not only that, I was also co-teaching with Brian in his office to students on how to improve their voiceover skills on their iPhones, how to use Kurzweil, how to get their text-to-speech to work, ways of organizing their notes in class, ways to take notes with refreshable braille displays or perhaps other electronic means. And so there I was. I had gone from not knowing really anything about this assistive technology world to now teaching and instructing other students on how to use the educational tools and assistive tech available to them. And technology keeps on growing and keeps on advancing. I mean, now we have AI. Now there are tools that can take your notes and create quizzes for you. There's even a tool out there that can take your notes and create an audio podcast with two people having a discussion and a dialogue on the material that you've taken from your notes or PowerPoint presentations. I mean, it's just phenomenal stuff, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds and how technology will continue to evolve. Once I completed my second year at college, I left and went off to do an independent living skills center. And I won't go into the details here. If you'd like to hear more about that, I can share my story, leave a comment. But there I really learned independent living skills for like orientation and mobility, cooking, cleaning, care of clothing, financial management, braille, and really beefed up my own independent living skills outside of academia. And I lived up in the Bay Area, which is 8 hours away from home, and I had my own apartment, and it really made me grow. I grew a lot in that time, in that year. Then I came back to El Camino to finish because I had 1 year left, and I then graduated in the third year with honors from the honors transfer program, and I transferred to UCLA where I got my bachelor's in sociology. And Once I got there, all of the tools that I had learned at El Camino, I think truly, truly, truly were the foundation that set me up for success at UCLA. UCLA was phenomenal. It was also really intense, extremely rigorous, and I had imposter syndrome for sure. And their Office for Students with Disabilities, while also phenomenal, great staff, wonderful resources, it was not the same as El Camino. El Camino College, their center, really felt like a family. They knew me by name. They knew lots of us by name and would call you and would say hi to you out on campus. And when you came in, and they knew you and they knew the things that worked for you, and they were there to support you and celebrate with you. And it was just absolutely phenomenal. So UCLA, with those tools that I learned at El Camino, I was able to really thrive at UCLA because the material was so much more intense. I went from semester to quarter system, all of these different transitions, and having those skill set, I think really, really helped me with my classes and to extend beyond classes and join extracurricular activities, clubs, and and just really take advantage of all that the university had to offer. So I'll skip over, after I graduated UCLA, yada yada, did different types of work, hospitality. Um, I volunteered in hospice, and then I also worked with other blind individuals doing employment services and ILS training. And so, gloss over that 3 years later, and I decided to go back to get my master's degree. And now I am at the tail end of my graduate program. Oh, my mother's phone is ringing. Oh my goodness. Oh, she got it. Okay. I am at the tail end of completing my graduate program to earn my master's in special education and credential in orientation and mobility. So, come August, I will now be teaching other individuals, children or adults, how to navigate their world through orientation and mobility training and get out there and be empowered to explore and to really get out of their comfort zone. And I'd like to truly, truly thank the founders of the Winfrey Vision Scholarship, because your gift matters. Your gift makes a difference. You support students who really had to overcome many adversaries, who may not be comfortable in going to college. I know I applied for scholarships and they helped me in paying for books, in transportation costs, even tuition, housing. And so that helped me thrive because while the money in and of itself was a wonderful gift, having the support and the knowledge that someone behind that scholarship supports me and wants to see me succeed was a pushing factor in my own success. So your gift matters, and I thank you. I thank you for your contributions and the scholarships that you are providing to these students. Last thing, I'm tearing up over here now, oh my goodness. Last thing I'll say is thank you to El Camino as well, for just being such a welcoming place and a place that accepts everyone and helps them achieve, what's beyond our own thinking, beyond their own possibilities. When I started El Camino, I never thought I would join the honors transfer program. I thought I would go to a state school, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I was limiting myself. And El Camino, especially, and the counselors and the assistant tech, Brian, Lynn, who worked in the office, the staff that also run the remedial, not remedial, but the support classes to assist students with disabilities. I mean, you guys are all amazing, super, super amazing. And I just feel so blessed to have gone there. I truly believe it was God's plan for me to go there because I was limiting myself beforehand. And El Camino taught me to set my own expectations. Because if you don't set your own expectations, you will become somebody else's expectation. So thank you, El Camino. Thank you to all the staff, the instructors, the professors, and the people who help run the SRC, the Special Research Center, because what you do is phenomenal. And I cannot wait to see how much more El Camino will help churn out amazing leaders of the future. So with that, again, my name is Giovanni. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you all.